GameWorn Radio is on the air.
Hey! Shelton scores! Hopping the Cordova, baby! We're going bowling! Now, let's go on Moose on a Harley! The fires, he scores! L.A. face with an Oakland booty! Scores! Make me a bicycle clock! They score! Bowmeister paid that man his money!
GameWorn Radio.
Hey everybody, it's Derek with GameWorn Radio, part of GameWorn.us. We're going to be joined with us tonight. We got Dan Day, one of our regulars. We've got a new caller, Vince, and we got a new caller, Bobby. And tonight's topic is going to be talking about pretty much dealing etiquette. So if you're looking to buy, sell, trade, any sort of that scenario, we're going to be talking about what we like to see, maybe some bad experiences that we've seen, some do's and don'ts of trying to work deals out with people about jerseys and things like that. So I'm going to go ahead and let Dan open up the topic for us. So Dan, you probably have got some really good recent experiences. I know we've talked a couple of times about some of the things you've had going on and what do I do in this scenario and things like that. So go ahead and shed some light on that for us and let us know about your scenarios and maybe some of the things that you like to see while listing jerseys or viewing listings, if you will.
Sure, man. Well, I haven't had a bad experience with a fellow collector yet. Like where a collector ripped me off. Keep an eye on the bad seller, the good seller trade list, and of course you make a network through people that are part of the pages and everything like that. And the word spreads pretty fast if someone's a bad trader or a bad seller, that matter. I always prefer trading. It just seems, it's got to work for both people, but it just seems like it keeps the collection on. I always say fresh. I always say more exciting when you find somebody that wants to trade and it fits both of you. But it's got to fit, and you can't be upset if it doesn't fit. Selling and buying always get tough because people have different values on their jerseys. Like I said, I haven't got an argument with anybody over it. And the hardest ones to value are the auction jerseys. When someone auctions a jersey, you win an auction, whether it's NHL auctions, GameWorn auctions, eBay, silent auction at the stadium or whatever. People think, well, hey, I paid $750 for that jersey in an auction. It's worth $750, and that might not be the case. I always, I try to be realistic about the jersey. Some people really get into how much wears on the jersey. LOAs, certificates from other teams, can be valuable. Sometimes some of the teams don't really do a good job at that. Some teams use tags. Migrates. Their process is pretty good. So if you get a migrate jersey, as long as it's, not that fake spelling of the group, where it's a knockoff.
So as a buyer, say you're looking to buy something or somebody lists something for sale, what do you like to see when somebody's trying to sell something as far as like upfront information?
Well, you want to know, I always want to see a picture of it. Then just a little bit about the jersey. If they know the year, does it have a set tag? Does it have a LOA or certificate? Photo matching's nice. If they say I have a photo, but maybe a few descriptions about there. And then are they open? I'd like to see, are they open to the jersey? Like, are they open to trading or what they're looking for? Like, I'm open to trading, but I'm looking for this. I need to sell it because I want to do this, just takes away some of that that guesswork, If you only want to sell it, then just say, hey, I only want to sell it. That's all I want to do. If you're open to trading, then just say you're open to trading. If you're open to a particular team, whatever that team that might be, if you want only Red Wing players, then just say I'll trade for, Red Wing players, Red Wing jerseys or something. This way it's a little bit more information. You don't have to do a whole big book, but just so you don't go into it. You might save down on some of your feedback, your PMs that people might send you. You're trying to answer a bunch of questions if you're just upfront about it.
Right, yeah, the more information the better. It kind of keeps people from doing the guesswork and things like that. Bobby, in your experiences dealing in the game war hobby, do you have any good or bad experiences that kind of stick out in your mind?
You know, I've been really fortunate, and I've been doing this for, a little over 15 years, and really, by and large, I think one of the things that makes this hobby great is the people that's in it, for the most part. Not a lot of necessarily negative experiences. I think so much of it comes down to, if you're selling, think about the things that you would want to know or that you would ask as a buyer, and just kind of keeping that in mind. I know a lot of times, especially with my gray in place, it can be so easy to just kind of overlook the homework aspect. But just as you would do if you're gonna buy something, you got to assume that your buyers are gonna want to do their homework. They're gonna want to understand what they're buying, and I think as many pictures as you can provide, as much detail as you can provide up front, the better off you're going to be. You're not going to get bombarded with questions, but even if you are, I think being responsive is so important. I've certainly been on both sides, answering tons of questions, which usually is a red flag to me that I didn't do a great job describing the item. Or on the other hand, needing to ask a lot of questions, for better or worse, because either there's not a lot of information up front, or you find out a detail through your first round of questions and you realize, well, that opens up a whole other realm of different possibilities or thoughts. So, I just think in terms of the transactions, the ones that stick out, the best ones are the ones where you can get all the information you need right up front, and they go smoothly. And I've always found, as a seller, generally, answering questions, being responsive is the best way to go from listing a jersey to actually, getting the money in your PayPal account, so to speak.
Yeah, it's definitely understandable there. Hey, Vince, do you have any, we'll say, negative or maybe not exactly positive experiences to chime in on?
Is he there?
He might still be on mute. Oh, there we go.
I'll just echo experiences from collectors out there with, as far as buying and selling.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, sometimes with dealers and things, we're going to expect a lot because we're thinking that they should be able to handle their listing practices appropriately. But of course, some of them, if they can get it out the door faster, they're going to take less time because, of course, with businesses and such, time is money. I think we're joined by Jason. Jason, you there? Jason may not be there. I see him on the list, but we'll see if we can get him to chime in a little bit later. One of the things that I try to do when I list things and one of the hot topic things is always the cost of shipping. If you list something, you put a for sale price. Does it include or doesn't it include shipping? Some people really don't know here and there, things like that. What I try to do is I always try to say, all right, it does or does not include shipping. So I'm going to actually list it explicitly with everything that I'm talking about. That way we can get the right expectations. So I always say the more information, the better, especially when it comes to like maybe a highly sought after jersey. Because here's one of the problems that I have is when I list something that I know a bunch of people are going to want, it's always hard to field all the questions at once. So you'll get in like maybe 15-20 requests on that jersey for the day. So you're trying to go through and answer all of them, and then some you have to get back to, and then later on down the road it's, did I get back to that person or not? Or you're trying to close a deal, and the deal's open-ended right now with a couple different people. You're trying to hammer out some details or something like that. Maybe there's an issue with calculating shipping or where is shipping going to be at, things like that. And getting back to everybody or all the parties involved is really difficult sometimes when all that information piles up. So the more information, the more detailed you can be about something, the better off you are. One thing I always try to do is when I get a jersey, if I don't have the time to photo match or anything like that, that's fine, because it's in my personal collection. But if I throwing something out there to try and sell, I always try and take the time to get a photo match, because you want that definitive proof. So right before I list something, I'm going to do at least maybe 15 to 30 minutes of research to see if I can at least find a picture before I sell it. Some you're not really going to have the best of time, but it's always a good practice to try and do that. The more information, the better, especially when it comes to wear details on the modern jerseys. Everybody wants to know where, what's it look like and all that. So I even get really detailed. Sometimes you'll see me bust out like a ruler and start measuring how long the repair marks are. It's got 36 inches of stitching and things like that. So I always try to be like super detailed, and some people laugh at some of my listings at how detailed I am, but I find that the more information is the better.
We are joined by right now. I'm really drunk. Throwing this out there right now. How you doing, boys?
Good, man. Good.
How you doing?
Glad you could join us today.
I love you guys.
Oh, we love you too, Marco, especially when you get a little bit crazy. You been drinking?
It's a Sunday. I think it's time for celebration, right? Come on.
There you go. Well, what we're doing was tonight we're actually talking about trying to set yourself up for success in buying and selling and things like that. Things what we expect out of listings, or if we're dealing with somebody talking about the negotiations. We've been talking about a little bit about how sometimes as a seller, if you get a lot of requests, it's hard to get back to everybody. And being on the other side of that, if you're not one of the people that gets back to, it's not a really good situation for you. So we're kind of battling between the two right now. Do you have any opinions on like listing practices or anything like that?
I think just honesty is the best policy. I think that people, I know I've seen people in the hobby that have built up reputations that kind of speak for themselves, and because of those reputations, their pieces end up selling for, a lot more than they normally would, and justifiably so, because people trust those sellers. So I guess if I had anything to add, it would be that be honest, do your homework, and be a good seller and put everything out there. Like you were saying, I don't think any amount of detail is enough. I mean, I think just, go above and beyond to list everything you know about the jersey and really be knowledgeable, because, you see these postings all the time where someone's like, I have a Ottawa Senators jersey, I don't know what year it's from, and it's this player, and I don't know where I got it off eBay, and there's no information, and, what do you expect to get from that, right? I guess it's kind of like selling a car that's not, certified or emissions tested. It's kind of like you're leaving it up to the buyer to do their own homework. So you as the seller, should expect that you're not going to get very much money.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like what you're saying on that, and I totally agree, is the better your listing is and the more information you have, obviously the more hits you're going to get on people being interested in it. But, it just shows how much you know about the product that you're selling, which in turn can also command a higher price in some instances.
Yeah, I think it has a lot to do with what you're selling on top of that, right? I mean, if you go in there selling, I don't know, whatever, like for the Leafs, like what kind of, like a PA Parento 2015 set 1, right? And it's got no information with it. No one's really going to go and do the homework on that kind of a jersey, right? So you're not going to get any interest. Whereas if you're selling I don't know, I'm a Leafs guy, so a Daryl Sittler 1978 jersey, the thing can sell itself if enough people are interested in doing the homework for you. So I do think it has a lot to do with the importance of the piece you're selling as well.
Yeah, Dan was talking about auctions and things like that a little bit earlier too. And one of the things that I find is I feel like some of the auction houses omit important information that that they have.
Oh, guaranteed.
Like we've seen instances where the nameplate's been changed, or people know that the autograph was on the jersey and it was removed. I even see some of the big ones that people always tote around never list the LOAs. Like, I don't even know how you can list something without saying it's a LOA, because it's from a rival company or something like that. Always list the information that you have, you know?
You know what, I will say, I don't mind throwing out names, because I don't really give a shit, and I just don't care.
You've been drinking.
Yeah, exactly. I don't care. Classic Auctions, I think, is a lot better at it than GameWorn.us.net at disclosing information to the buyer. I know a lot of the time, Classic's policy, I think, is that if it doesn't have an LOA from the seller, they won't issue their own LOA for it. They'll give you like a, you bought this from Classic type of shit. But then again, for anyone listening, if they really want to know, if you contact Classic after, a lot of the times they'll just issue you an LOA anyways, which is good for. But again, like anything, they say anything you buy off of them, I think for a period of a year, if you find evidence that it's fake or not what they say it is, then you can get your money back. But then how do you prove that, and where do you draw the line? So who the fuck knows? But yeah, I find Classic, if we're going to start talking about this stuff, is a lot better than GameWorn auctions in terms of disclosing information to the buyer on the jersey and really doing their homework and listing stuff as it is. Like, there was a good example. Okay, I'll give you guys a personal story. There was a Lanny McDonald, or what's done up as a Lanny McDonald jersey in the last Classic auction. I don't know, I've spoken on this show a few times about a jersey I got ripped off on. It was that jersey, actually, and I paid a lot of money for it because I thought it was Lanny McDonald. And then when I got it in my hand and I did a lot of research into it, I found it wasn't Lanny McDonald. It was actually a Rocky Saginaw, and I paid $3,000 for it originally. And I eventually got refunded, which was really good because I did a lot of homework and more than that in terms of like taking legal action. But Classic was pretty forthcoming on the fact that I'd forwarded something to them and to let them know, and they were pretty good about it. They could have sold it as anything they really wanted to, because it's a really good mock-up of a Lanny McDonald jersey. Like, it really is, unless you really do your homework. So take that for what it's worth in terms of what we were talking about.
Now, if any of our guys on the call right now purchase from any of the auction sites?
I think one of the things about some of the auction sites in particular, for better or worse, but the ones that as a bidder come across better, a lot of sites I've seen in a number of places where they just kind of, they write descriptions, but it's almost like they wrote the descriptions without thinking about what the bidder would actually want to know. I don't need career highlights of Gary Roberts.
Completely.
I want to know what conditions is the jersey in, what size is it, what custom alterations does it have, how's the wear, what are the repairs, is there a photo match? This might just be me. I don't really care what letters it has on it, because I'm going to, it's helpful sometimes, but it's not a deal maker or breaker. Those other factors are just as important, if not more so. And I just feel like so many times they waste time telling me about this player's NHL journeyman career that I just don't care about. I need to know the details on the shirt itself.
Because I think they're also trying to market to people that are not even like game-worn enthusiasts, just like people that are surfing the web, like people that have a lot of money to spend, and they come across this and they're like, oh my god, this is incredible, I think they're marketing to those people all the time, and which is ridiculous, but that's what it is, I suppose.
Yeah, that's not, I gotta believe they're not getting a whole lot of traffic. I don't know what % of their traffic's coming in from people that don't otherwise really know the hobby. You don't really stumble into the game-worn collecting hobby, if you don't know something about hockey to begin with, at least enough to where,
The thing is, I think we kind of, from my point of view, I think I stumbled into it that way. And I know Derek did as well.
You didn't need an explanation of what did Gary Roberts do in his career.
No, you're right. You're completely right about that. No, you're right about that.
Yeah, I knew Steve Yzerman, so you didn't have to tell me about Steve Yzerman, you know?
Yeah, we know what he did. We watched him play, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah, I think the auctions, I think the last one, what happened was what? GameWorn.us.net? Was that the last one that just happened?
Yeah, it just ended.
Yeah, there was questions there after it was done. You could see on the pages people wondering if they were up in the bidding, if they had secret bidders that were up in the prices, you know?
Oh, yeah, but
they were, you know, some of them had the information. You just like, some of them had team LOAs and stuff like that listed. It's what I went back to. What I said at first is the auctions, and I've been guilty of it too. Because you want the jersey, you want certain things. You really have to be disciplined on what you're going to pay for a jersey because it gets crazy.
These are niche market auction houses. Like they only deal in game worn hockey stuff. That's an extremely niche market. Yes, of course, there are a lot of people who are going to pay a lot of money for that stuff, but still, who's going to regulate that kind of a market? So my advice to anyone would be never put in a proxy bid and be willing to stay up with 6 or 7 cups of coffee, you know, till 5 a.m.
Yeah.
To make sure that you're ready there to just bid up whatever gets bid up. Because, you know what, I hear it all the time, and I'm so paranoid about it myself. These people put in a proxy bid of like $1,000 over what the current bid is, and then they wake up and they've won it, but it went to their absolute maximum bid. I hear that too much, and I don't trust it, you know? Do you guys feel the same way?
It's almost like don't expose yourself if you don't have to.
Yeah.
I think set your limit. I think that's the biggest rule. Anybody that wants to buy
No, see, I don't even agree with
set your
that.
limit.
I don't agree with that because if you set your limit on like, let's say I'm going to bid on for something I would like a Matt Sundin jersey or whatever, right? I set my limit is $2,000. Well, if I do that and I proxy bid that and the auction house is crooked, then I've essentially cost myself, or I've prevented myself from getting a really good deal. Because if I would have just kind of
Well, that's two different questions. A proxy bidders in the game war auction, they just did the extended bidding, which pissed me off because I was like, oh, I won this jersey, and then all of a sudden extended time. Well, what do you mean extended time? Anyway, that's two different questions. One is your personal. I'm just saying your personal. Like if you say, okay, I can afford $2,000, I'm going to bid up to $2,000. That's it. Don't bid more than that, where you're going to hurt yourself financially. The proxy bid, that's a whole nother subject that you're talking about, like auction houses being dirty or people having those bidders that bid on the dark side that run the price up to see how high you went. That's two.
One sec, guys. 1 second.
Yeah, I think we talk about what we want out of a seller, and I think the auction houses still fall into that. I know they're a different entity and they're companies and corporations and they're out there to try and make money, but I think we still have the mentality to want to hold them to the same standard that they would if I was putting something out there, say on Facebook, saying I'm selling this.
Well, we want teams to do it too. How many times we had a conversation about how bad teams are on what they have and what they're selling, you know? And it's on the pages right now. Some people, the Wild, they sell their jerseys, and the people are saying it takes 6 months to 7-8 months to get their LOAs. Well, how the hell are you doing that?
Well, can we get back to proxy bidding? Sorry, I was getting bombarded with emails, but I think my point was that if you do bid up to a certain amount, if the auction house is crooked, you can count on your proxy bid, which is like, let's say the bids like you're bidding on something that's at $1,000, you bid up to $2,000 because you want to go to bed that night. You can pretty much count on it going to $2,000 if the auction house is crooked. That's what I meant.
Well, I know what you meant. I just think it's two different questions. I was saying when I say your max personal bid is your personal, what you feel in your inside.
Yeah, but why are you going to prevent? But like, I don't want to always bid my maximum bid. I don't want to spend the maximum of what I am comfortable with. I want to get a deal sometimes. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, then just go again. You bid what you want to bid.
Yeah, Marco's saying what he wants to do is he wants to bid every step.
Right.
What's that?
Marco wants to bid every step. So if you're winning it, he wants to bid underneath what his max is to try and beat you, but not go up there because he feels that you know, with the crooked ones, as soon as he places that bid for that top dollar,
Exactly.
it's going to hit it.
Right.
So he's never going to have the
I don't
opportunity
disagree
to get
with
it
that.
at the lower amount.
Like I said, the last one, the GameWorn auction one, the last one that just went down with them, it went extended time. I'm sitting there watching it because it ended at a time.
Yeah,
that
they
was
all
decent.
do that though.
And then when extended time, like, what the hell is that?
Yeah,
know?
you know what you're going to get into it. Come on. You've been collecting long enough. You know what extended time is. Right?
Well, usually
It is
I just set it
bullshit.
off.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I did. I just said, okay. I think I put one more bid in, and I said, that's it. I'm done. I'm not going to sit here
But
and get
that's why they do that, because they got your one more bid, right? They got my one more bid numerous times.
That's the name of the game.
You don't go to an auction house looking for a bargain generally.
No.
No, you don't.
Yeah, that's what extended bidding is bargain killers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You go there knowing that, like anything I would have ever bought off auction, I pretty much just said to myself, I have to have it.
Yep.
I might never see it again. That's it.
Yeah,
And
I
I
mean,
think
sometimes you don't even get it then. I mean, I just
Yeah.
one that just ended. There was a jersey that I felt like I just had to have, and it went for more than twice what I thought it should have gone for. I was like, well, you know, I didn't need to have it that badly.
Yeah, that's so I think when you're talking about listing what we want to say, I think like Derek said, we hold the collectors, we're holding the auction houses the same standard we're holding each other to. And sometimes they fall short of that, because they like
Sometimes.
they're listing all the stats. Like Bobby said, they're listing all these stats. Like, I don't care about the stats. I want to know about the
I wanna
jersey.
know what I'm bidding
I just
on.
want to know what the jersey is.
Right.
'Cause obviously, if I'm bidding on the jersey, it's either a player I collect, it's a team I collect, or it fits in my collection. So I've already done my research on who the player is, or why I want that jersey. I don't
You're
think
right,
that.
but if I'm buying like game used pants and Yzerman had like diarrhea that night and he shot himself in those pants, I want to know that.
Oh, okay. Well,
I want
that-
photo matches to the shit stains on the pants.
I'm
You
talking
scored
about
a
the
goal
jersey. You
with
want to talk about
shit in
shit stains? You go right ahead. You got it, man. I'm gonna stick to the jersey.
That's a hell of a photo match. You have to admit. I mean, come
Yeah.
on.
Here's a picture of Eisman on the toilet. Yep, there you go. There's your photo match.
It's a picture
detail I
from
like.
under the stall.
Yeah.
Scent matching.
I
Terrible.
was, and when you're I guess if you approach the same thing, if you're approaching as the seller, you want to approach the buyers the same way, So if you're selling something, you want to say, okay, what would somebody want to know about my jersey? Either you want to put it down to strike up a conversation, or you want to give as much detail, and then I think the one thing is not to be offended. If someone questions you about your jersey, just answer the question. And if they don't like it, say, okay, well, I'm not, and let it go. People once in a while you see on the thing where people start to get in a bickering war in the open air, people think they know more than you know more than them, and just,
Well, that
There's
kind of
no-
comes with the whole buying and selling practices and combining that with relationships that people have with one another. So if somebody has a bad deal with somebody else, they start putting them on blast on their own for sale shit. And my philosophy is, if I don't like you, I pretend you don't exist, which means if you put something for sale, I might see it real quick and be like, I hate that person. But I'm not going to blast you on your own thread about it and shit. I mean, that's just, I wouldn't want somebody to do that to me, so I'm not going to do that to somebody else. I mean, we all got to think about it like that. Like, we have to do things how we would want them. Like, if you're going to sell a jersey, list on the for sale thread what you would expect somebody else to list. Does it include shipping? Does it not include shipping? Where am I willing to ship to? And you want to be as explicit as possible when negotiating the deal.
I'll tell you, I love it when people post on these threads and they're like, the price is $800, but I'd be willing to listen to other offers. Right? Like, why did you fucking list it for $800? When you say that, no one in their right mind is going to be like, okay, I'll give you $800. It makes no sense, right? Like, it's so ridiculous. When someone lists that, I'm like, automatically, why? Why even do it?
Well,
I don't
good
know.
on
Maybe
with
you
that.
guys think differently than I, but I think it's ridiculous.
I'm
Well,
with
that
you
one
in
of the big
principle,
things-
but I have curiously listed things in that way and received outreach saying, I will give you the $800. There's no negotiation. It is the strangest thing.
Well, if you list it as a best offer, if you gotta be more, I think that Marco, you gotta be more specific. If you're willing to take less for the jersey and you say or best offer, like Bobby said, some people come and say, I'm not gonna mess with it.
I get or best offer, but some people are like, I want $1,000, but I'm willing to negotiate. Well, what the fuck does that mean? That means you don't want $1,000 then, because you're willing to negotiate. If you weren't willing to negotiate, then yes, you would want $1,000. But because you're willing to negotiate, you obviously don't want $1,000. You get what I'm saying? It's insane.
Maybe
when you see that or best offer, that or best offer is assigned to not give them what they're asking for.
There's an interesting statement earlier about not being offended when somebody is not interested after you've given them a bunch of information. I think on the other side of that coin is, as a buyer, if you're asking a seller a bunch of questions and you are interested in something, but let's say you find the information, they're transparent with you, and you decide I'm not interested anymore. I think something that is an important thing to do is be willing to admit to the seller, you know what, I appreciate the information, I'm no longer interested. That happens so many times that people just cease to ask questions and just go radio silent rather than simply just closing out.
That's my biggest pet peeve is when you go back and forth with a message and then they don't respond at all. Like you send them a message saying, hey, I saw your jersey. I want some more information about it. Are you willing to trade? Are you willing? You ask a question and they don't respond to you. Like, hey, folks, check your emails, check your Facebook messages. That's my biggest pet peeve. Whether you don't like it, whether you don't like what I'm listing or not listing, that's just don't ignore it.
Yeah.
You're sitting there and you're just like, well, what's going on?
Mm-hmm.
So we haven't had a bad experience. Story yet, so I want to go ahead and offer my bad experience story. Our website had somebody contact us looking for, a specific jersey or a jersey of a specific player, and ironically enough, I was at a Sailor and auction in which that player's jersey was up, and I bought it on behalf of a collector.
I feel bad for you, buddy.
I knew the jersey existed. I knew it was real. I knew it came from the team. I got it from the team for this other collector, and this person was looking for him. And it's a player that if somebody has it right now, they're probably not going to get rid of it. So I kind of poked at him and I was like, would you be interested in selling it if you got enough for it? And he's like, I would. I'd probably start at this price. So I let the guy know, and he's like, all right, well, we started negotiations. So I started handling the negotiations and things like that, and we came to an agreement on a price. We talked about shipping. The deal was pretty much closed. All he had to do was pay. Radio silent, right? So didn't hear from him when the deal's done, finalized, and he just has to pay. And then 6 months later, he's like, hey, so about that jersey. So he comes back up again, right? So I'm like, alright, yeah, well, the dude still has it, and ironically, the guy was flying in, so I had him bring the jersey, so I have it on hand and things like that. And so he starts even, at this point, asking about more questions. And it's a player from overseas, and this is a person from overseas. He's asking, can I get pictures of the sleeves and things like that? And, I'm just trying to make sure it's real. And I know in my head, there's no way it's not real because I got it from the team. Not only that, I provided him with photo matches from team photos matched to the jersey. So, hands down, you can't argue it. The only problem with the jersey is it was set tagged wrong by the team. The team put the wrong year set tag in it, but they did that for the entire set.
Was it photo matched?
Yeah, I photo matched it myself.
Oh. Well, what are you going to do then? That's the thing. Come on, man. There's so many... we're not going to get into a discussion about deadbeat buyers here, are we? Because we'll be here for fucking a few months to talk about this shit.
Yeah, I'm just saying it's terrible. These
I think that's like I said. If you don't go radio silent. Just if you don't want it or you don't like it, or then just say, hey, I'm not interested anymore. I need to raise more cash, or whatever the reason is, just say, and then let it go. There's no reason to trash somebody if you don't like it. If you think they're selling it too high, then they think they're selling it too high. And just say, that player's not worth that anymore, in my opinion, and maybe somebody else will buy it, and whatnot. Everything's got a price, I guess.
So
yeah, I think that's a good point. It's okay to reach an impasse. It's okay to disagree. There's going to be deals that just aren't going to happen.
Right.
But that's happened to me a few times where, both as a seller and a buyer, but mostly as a seller, where you've had a buyer who's like really wants it, but you're just not seeing eye to eye on price, and just that's kind of the end of it.
Right.
For better or worse. That's it.
It does suck. I mean, I had a deal I was working on I won't even name the player, and I won't name the seller, but a deal I was working on a Maple Leafs Hall of Fame goaltender, let's say. I was doing a lot of research on the jersey. I told the guy, I want the jersey under these circumstances, and I told him, listen, I'm basically I'm gonna take it, based on if I can find a good photo reference of the jersey. And so he had the jersey listed with not an auction house, but a separate retailer. And he had the jersey, brought back to him, based on the premise that I was going to buy it. And I really thought I was, but I said, listen, I've been looking and I can't find a photo reference of this jersey anywhere. Never mind a photo match, a photo reference. So I said, I can't buy it. And I felt horrible. It's the worst kind of email you can write when you have good intentions, but you can't follow through, just based on, you're just not sure about something. And, I didn't feel like I did anything wrong, because I said right off the bat, I need a photo reference. I should be able to find one. I think I'll be able to find one, but ultimately I didn't. And it's a really tough email to write. And honestly, a lot of people that they just say fuck it, man. I'm just not gonna bother even following through, which is the complete wrong thing to do. But I mean, empathy towards the buyer,
I think there's a lot of value on trying to keep the lines of communication open.
For sure.
And in trying to, even if a deal is going to fall apart, retaining that relationship.
For sure, yeah.
Another deal that I was trying to work out was a 2-for-1, right? Knew that going into it, and I had some questions about the jersey, and I was trying to find a photo match, and there's just some odd things. But I figured, if it was good, maybe it'd be worth it. So I thought we had a deal hammered out, and then at the last minute he's like, and what else are you going to add? I'm like, what? Didn't we just talk about these 2 jerseys specifically for that one, and now you want something else on top of that? And this is like an entire month conversation going on. And so I'm like, by the time I finally said, okay, I feel comfortable doing this, they throw at me and add something else. And I was like, what are we talking about here?
Yeah, that's the, and who can argue when people want to sell their stuff to an auction house or want to list their stuff with an auction house who takes your credit card information down, who if you put a bid down, you're getting charged on your credit card regardless. Who can argue with those people at the end of the day when all this shit happens, right? I mean, I sympathize with the sellers as well. Like it's tough, man. Like to deal with all the scum out there that are just wasting your fucking time. Like, jeez.
And I think that's a great point. Around that as a seller. At the end of the day, money talks. And so if you've got 3 or 4 guys talking to you about a single jersey, certainly it's a consideration who reached out to you first, but it comes down to who's going to pay first. And certainly be transparent and reach out to the other people that you're talking to and negotiate with. Be like, look, I've got somebody fixing to make a move, put some money down. But at the end of the day, you got to put the money forward.
It's definitely about relationships when you're selling privately. I mean, there are a lot of people that I deal with on a, I haven't bought anything recently, but a lot of people that have a lot of good stuff that I would like to obtain one day, and you have to tread lightly. You don't want to sever your ties with someone. You want to give people the benefit of the doubt, but if we're talking random Facebook dudes here, I mean, I think that I basically back up what you just said, whereas give people a chance, but that's about it.
All right, so
one or 2 days.
If we were going to write a manual, if you will, like a how-to, for things, say for a seller, what are the things that we're going to want on there? All right, so if you're selling something, here's the things that we want. Fill out this punch list. We want pictures. We want a full description that includes the player, the year, the set, or as much information as you know about the jersey that can fill that information out. You got to have a price. You have to.
I want to say
where you
something
ship
real
to.
quick.
Yeah.
I think that depends on the value of what you're selling. So if I'm selling something that's worth $2,000, I'll put probably a lot more effort into it than I would if I was selling like a game issued $75 preseason game issued like AHL jersey, right? And it's just I don't have game issued AHL jerseys, but I understand the people that do that want to sell them. They're not going to do 2 hours of diagnostics on it and waste a lot of time posting about it and all the stuff that we would like to see on a jersey that has that low of value.
I could see that for something like a practice jersey.
Yeah.
But if it's a set jersey, you should know what year.
You should know the year and the player and the value and what you want out of it, of course. All those things should, of course, right?
I think, Derek, to your point, what these guidelines are more so is how to get, as a seller, maximum value from what you're selling. Because even if you're selling a preseason game-issued AHL jersey, if you are, the more transparent you are, the more likely you will get the maximum value out of that item. Even if it's a difference between $75 and $90 for something that cheap. You get in what you put it. You get out what you put in.
Of course. Although I'm not going to list, like, if I have an AHL jersey preseason, I'm not going to list the shit stain diarrhea information that I would list on, like, the Yzerman shit stain jersey that I have, right? Like, that's just it's not going to happen. It's a lot of work to put into the AHL, the background information. You got to do full matching on, this and that. Like, it's too much,
I think you got to know your audience. So you got to know your audience, though, too. If you're advertising, the ones I see a lot of description on as either the older jerseys, that people like the older jerseys, but the other one is the enforcer ones. The enforcer ones, people want to know if it's been ripped, if it's been how many repairs on it.
Yes.
So if it's an enforcer jersey, and then you might want to be more descriptive. The one thing that bothers me, that gets me, is that word, and we think we discussed it before, is when people throw out the word hammered. Well, what does the definition of hammered mean?
Well, but there is a definition of hammered, as I understand it, which is 10 repairs is hammered.
Right.
But that's not everyone's definition.
Right. So
it's a loose definition.
Right, it's a loose. So if you're going to, and again, the one that comes into play with the wear on the jersey, the real wear, is the enforcer ones, because that's what I see on the pages, that people, they want to know how much wear is on that jersey.
Don't the pictures speak for themselves, though? I mean, after a while.
I think it does. If they put enough pictures, when they put one picture up there, or better yet, PM me for pictures. Like, you couldn't list a picture.
That's a little bit suspect right there.
Right.
Anyways.
And so I think it goes into play what you're selling, who you're selling it to, because if you're in that market of buying it or trading for it, you're gonna want the same things, and it depends what you want for it, who you want, what are you after. I mean, there's so many factors that go in there. I think if you know the year, and whether it was game worn or game issue, that's important because that's obviously a different value goes into it. Does it have a tag? Does it have an LOA? Does it COA on it? If you have it photo matched, and is shipping included or not included?
One of the first guys I ever dealt with, his name was Joe Esposito. He's a Gretzky collector out of Edmonton. And when I really got into game-worn equipment and jersey collecting and all that stuff, the one thing he said that always stuck with me is he said that the piece should speak for itself. I didn't kind of understand what he was talking about at the time, but I definitely understand now. In terms of it should authenticate itself. There should be no. If you're talking about a really good premium piece, there should be no question. Like if you're talking about something with 40+ repairs, that's something that kind of speaks for itself because no jackass is making McDonald's minimum wage is going to have the wherewithal of the time or the motivation to forge a jersey and stitch 40 repairs into it, or it's just. And I really think that the piece should speak for itself is a really strong argument in terms amongst collectors, and I think that's why you see there's a lease collector's name is Arpad. I think you guys have probably heard of him because he's a pretty prominent collector. He's been collecting. He's one of the most prominent lease collectors. He had a Rick Vive jersey. It was used from 1980 to 1982, and I think the thing is the most hammered Leafs jersey I've ever seen in my life, and it's Rick Vive. He's not a Hall of Famer. He was a Leafs captain, but he's not a Hall of Famer. He's not anyone that's is going to go down in the record books as being this penultimate player. But he posted that jersey for $7,500 for a 1980 to 1982 Rick Vive jersey. It sold within 8 hours, and that jersey spoke for itself. And I think that if we're talking about really high end items, a picture is worth 1,000 words. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, with the high end items, I think.
Yeah, you're right. Of course.
I think 90% of the hobby is the lower end. The mid range, the lower end hobby.
You're right, and I didn't think about that. You're right.
Yeah, of course. The high end stuff. That statement speaks for itself. You're going to put, if you're going to buy that jersey, if you want to use your example, you're going to put the research in to make sure that jersey, and you're going to do all that. But 90% of the hobby, if you're like a game issue, just because you want that player or want that team, you just want the much information. Know that you'd say game issue jersey, and somebody didn't pass it off as an authentic jersey. Wear it out on the ice with a playing beer league, and then say, "Oh, it's a game worn jersey."
I think for the most part, a photo match speaks for itself in today's day and age. I mean, I'm not going to talk about 5 years from now when people are trying to figure out how to manipulate photo matches, which was going to happen. I can guarantee it will happen if it hasn't happened already, which it probably has. So yeah, I understand with high-end items, but I think that even low-end items, a lot of what you see, especially in the GameWorn auctions.net, the last auction they had was a lot of their stuff was photo matched. I would say like a good 75% of their stuff was photo matched from what I saw.
Hold on. You say it's photo matched, but is it really because they like to include pictures? Doesn't mean it's a photo. I've seen them include pictures of a player wearing a jersey that is obviously not the jersey listed.
No, what's funny?
You're absolutely right with that. I had a problem with that with GameWorn.net. I had bought won an auction for an Adam Deadmarsh Avs jersey. I guess it was 1996, 1997 season. They had two pictures on the auction that were not the same jersey that they were selling. And I got the jersey. There was a lot of wear on it. There was repairs that were, indicative of, the Avalanche and the way they would repair jerseys back in the day with the stitching and whatnot. And I sent the jersey, because I couldn't find a photo match, I sent the jersey to Stu at Migray, and he took about 2.5 weeks, maybe 3 weeks of trying to photo match it, and he could not find a photo match. And he told me that he thought that wear was added to the jersey at some point, and that he would not issue me a Migray vintage LOA.
And this is something they said was photo matched.
Well, they had put two pictures, like someone else had said on the show here, at the bottom of the auction, of Deadmarsh wearing, a jersey from that particular year, 96, 97. But those pictures were not the jersey that they were selling in the auction.
You know what's funny? I saw this Paul Coffey jersey. It was Detroit Red Wings Paul Coffey jersey that was, I forget what year it was from. It was from the end of his career.
You can have it if you want.
Are you guys getting an echo too?
Yeah, it's coming from Vince. That's alright.
Okay,
there we go.
That's fine.
So I've seen this Paul Coffey jersey that said it was video matched, and I looked at the video, and I'm like, I don't see because the Paul Coffey jersey was going way too low. And I'm like, why is this jersey going so low? And I looked at the video, and there was no match whatsoever. You couldn't tell anything. There's no definitive match at all. They didn't even talk about the match in the listing. They just said, "Oh, video match," but they didn't say, to the shoulder, to the hem, or to whatever. They just said video. And I thought, like, that's bullshit. Like if you can't even say where it's matched from, like, why should you even list it as video match?
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Now, one of the things that I want to get to before we run out of time is, and it's a good thing you're on, Marco, is I want to talk about international shipping, and I don't know how many of you guys have shipped internationally, but I was actually asked this week about shipping internationally and what I recommend. And I thought about it, and from my dealings and things like that. If I'm selling something and I say shipping included, then I would say the burden is on me to make sure it gets there with tracking and the proper insurance that way, if it gets lost or something. Now, with international shipping, some of the guys will have different or odd requests. Please don't put on the customs forms the actual value or anything like that. Obviously, that's illegal, and I don't ever do that. But
oh my God, give me a break. Are you serious? I would never buy anything off of you. I love you, Derek, but I would never buy anything off of you if that's the case.
You can't see my air quotes because we're not on video, but I would air quote never do that, air quote. Right?
Yeah, but, I hear you, yeah.
But when you do something like that, one of my recommendations, or one of the things that I always do, is I'll say, I'll ship it to you any which way you want, but as soon as it leaves my hands, it's not my problem anymore.
Of course. I think I'm from Canada, right? So I have bought quite a few jerseys from people in the States. And so what I do now is that I have anyone that's shipping a jersey in the States, I have what they call AmeriFriend, right? Or American, AmeriFriend, right? Clever pun on words. I just ship it to them. And then I have someone that works in my office that comes down every month, and he flies in, and I just have him fly the jersey in. Obviously, that you can't do that with everyone, but if there is any advice I'm going to give someone, a Canadian buyer that's buying from the States, is ship USPS, don't declare value, and have tracking. USPS does not do brokerage fees typically. And if you, and I think that I don't know what the statistics are, entirely, but the amount of lost packages I think are like 0.1% or something crazy like that. So when you're talking about declaring value, and it's kind of like an insurance policy you're willing to pay. And I'm just not willing to pay, for $1,000 or $2,000 jersey, $100 when there's a 1 in like 500 chance the jersey's going to get lost in shipping. It just doesn't make financial sense. So unless it had like extreme sentimental value, I just wouldn't bother with that, personally.
Canada's not as bad as I think if you're talking overseas to Germany or the European countries. I tracked a package international and used the international form, the tracking number. I tracked all the way to the person's place. So there were hockey sticks. I wrapped up hockey sticks. Was able to put that number in there like USPS and track it all the way once across the border and everything. So I think Canada, you can track it through Canada some. Maybe it depends on where it's going to. This one was going to the Toronto area, I think.
Yeah, it's the same
Germany,
thing.
When you're going overseas or to a third world country like Mexico or something like that, you better be careful.
Save this right here.
I hope no Mexican people are listening right now.
I'm chopping that audio, Dan.
Mexico. What's that?
I'm chopping that audio for sure.
Yeah, you gotta chop it. You just bleep that out. Jesus.
When you chop it when you go.
No,
okay.
I'm chopping it to save it so I can use it everywhere else.
I've said some bad shit on this show, but kudos to you, sir. Cheers to you.
I'm
gonna buy you a drink next time you come down to Toronto. You let me know.
I think anywhere else is really I think you gotta be like Derek. You gotta be like I'm gonna do any way you want to do it, but when it gets to customs and it leaves customs, I'm done with it. You have to do that.
I had a collector in Germany buy 2 shirts off of me, and he asked me if I could ship in a specific way, and I said sure. And so he had me ship them one at a time, 2 weeks apart, first class mail, not priority. It was $30 a package, as opposed to priority, which would have been $60. But then you have 2 shirts, and then his declarative value or whatever.
And that's smart, to be
I'll
clear.
ship out whatever you want.
And I sympathize with I really do sympathize with the buyers living in Canada because, man, I've been dinged when someone claimed the actual value of the item. I'm like, why the fuck did you do that? I'm like, now I'm like kind of screwed, But you guys want to hear a funny story? I had something shipped from a seller in Germany. A nice guy. His name was Marcus Bonte. And
yeah, he's good.
You ever dealt with that guy?
Yeah.
Nice
He's one
guy.
of my first trades ever.
Yeah, he's a good guy. And I bought a Lindros jersey off him, Lindros Sleeves jersey. It's my favorite jersey in my entire collection. It's my favorite one. And I'll tell you why one of the reasons it's my favorite, because when he shipped it to me, I was a fucking idiot. And I stated where it should be shipped, the address, but I shipped it to my company, and I didn't state the unit number. So what happened, or the suite number, and what happened is that although they could see it was to Marco Durakis, shipped to the address that I shipped it to, I was looking at the tracking, and they said could not deliver, and they were sent to ship it back to Germany, and when they ship it back, for those of you that don't know, when they ship it back to overseas, the tracking is only one way. So if there's an issue sending it to you, you don't get tracking information on when they send it back to the shipper, which is if you're shipping a jersey that's $2,000, it can be very stressful when it's getting sent back. So I went down to the shipping company, the shipping depot, which was fairly close to my work, and I basically, James Bond 007 myself into that fucking place, and I said, listen, I know it's somewhere in here, because they were sent to ship it back that night. I said, please reconsider. Here's my ID. Please get it to me somehow. And they did, and I almost kissed the guy when he showed up. I was so excited. But so one thing you need to be concerned about when you're shipping from overseas to the U.S. or to Canada is that if something gets screwed up, when they ship it back, there is no tracking information, there's no confirmation, there's no nothing. So buyer beware, I suppose.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I found as well, primarily with Canada, but also with Europe, when you ship things via U.S. Postal Service, generally the two choices are first class or priority if you don't want to break out tons of cash. And priority generally is twice as much as first class, and it is rare that I've ever had a priority package get there very much quicker at all, if quicker than first class.
Yeah, good call. You know, USPS is one of the most consistent shipping services I've ever used in my entire life, and I would recommend them to anyone. You know, I'm not saying that they're the absolute best choice. I'm just saying that actually, I'm going to say they're the best choice. Like from the other shippers that I've used, I would recommend them highly above anyone else. Yeah. USPS shipping anywhere, Canada, Mexico, overseas, I would definitely use them in a heartbeat. By far the best.
Cool. So, well, guys, I think we had a lot of great input. Hopefully, some new buyers and sellers out there kind of get a good idea of what to expect and what other people expect from them. You know, I think it'll be some really good insight. We'll go ahead and get this posted here soon. I want to thank Marco, Bobby, Vince, Dan. Thank you guys for coming on this week. Hopefully, sometime soon we'll be able to get Jason back on. We'll try and figure out.
Anyways, where's Doc?
Yeah. He had some microphone problems and he couldn't get it figured out in time, so we just had to push on without him. So maybe in a couple weeks. But yeah, we'll figure out what the next topic is going to be. Arrange it on Facebook.
Good show.
Yeah, thanks everybody.
Alright, if you guys want to stay on the call, we'll do some banter afterwards. Everybody else, thanks for listening. We'll see you in a couple weeks. Thanks.